Okay, so folks, we're back again with part two. I just think there's so much on this, and we've hardly touched on the theology stuff. A little bit about feast and fast, a little bit about the fact that God is in certain things, but not that much. I think I want to start with something on that, really, because Reese touched on it in the last one about, well, we basically need to live, we need to survive. And I think that the biblical narrative says God provides. It's a God-ordained provision for life. That's why it says in the Sermon on the Mount that we mentioned last time, don't worry about what you eat, don't worry about what you getting clothing, etc., etc. So there's something about that, even though for some people in our world they're going to worry about it. And I think I want to say into that comment about not worrying about it and that God provides, and there are lots of examples when he does. I mean, you could take the feeding of the 5,000 and the feeding of the 4,000 as occasions when he was concerned that people hadn't eaten and they better eat before they go off and try and walk miles to get home. So that's just a simple example. There's lots of others. But I just wondered if you have any complex thoughts ever about the fact that there are some in this world who struggle, and we throw away a lot of food in our, you mentioned, Reese, hunter-gatherers and how they might just get enough to live, and yet we throw away a lot in our society, and yet there are millions around the world who are struggling to get some even now. So any thoughts on that ethical dilemma?
What is the dilemma? Could you say it again?
Well, we throw away in the UK, depending on the estimates.
Oh, I see.
We throw away between something like 18% and 30% of our food is wasted. So I can't imagine when most people sit down to eat that's the first thing that comes to their mind. No. And we obviously have some people trying to deal with it because we now have food waste collections and so on. But I just wondered how you approach that thought, or do you in any way give thought to not wasting food, for example?
I don't waste food. I don't waste anything.
Yeah, I
so it's
try
perfection
to
in the room, is it?
avoid food waste if at all possible. I mean, sometimes things go out of date and they're no longer edible. Yeah, sometimes it happens, but I try as much as I can to eat everything that in the time that it needs to be eaten, and not to waste it if at all possible.
Anybody else on this?
I'm just thinking that when you say about the percentage of food waste, is that percentage that you've done? Sorry, I've got a sore throat. Yeah. Is that on households, or is that supermarket? Is that industrial waste?
So
all of it.
It's, as far as it depends which measurement you try and look at, because different people are trying to estimate quite a complicated process. But you're right to separate them. There's supermarket waste, there's household waste, there's also waste left in farmers' fields. And the whole network of gleaning, which actually, as town councillor is, you might know something about the gleaning situation in Cornwall. I don't know.
I am vaguely aware of it.
Right, vaguely.
Yeah, vaguely.
I mean, I keep thinking I should try and find out more about that, because there is a lot of stuff, and of course the biblical narrative says leave the edges for those who are struggling for food in order to and. We've kind of become so farming efficient in many aspects of our world, I mean, there's another aspect to come to, and I don't know what you think about it, about whether you ever think, well, am I eating vast quantities of pesticides and herbicides in certain kinds of food, or is it just not part of our psyche?
Well, when you wash an apple before you eat it, that solves all the problems.
Does it?
Because a bit of chlorine kills everything.
No.
Go on, disagree then and have an argument.
No, it doesn't. If it's the fertilizer, it's actually in the food itself.
Oh, okay.
It's actually, you can't wash it. You might be able to wash off the extra, but you're not. It
depends on the product sometimes.
Yeah,
I think
it does. Yeah, it's in the food.
Some things you can wash, and some are more. One of the dodgiest is oranges, apparently. That even if you peel an orange, you are not getting rid of the problem.
You see, but if you wanted to just completely eat, organic, it's quite costly. It's quite expensive, and I think the whole thing needs to be looked at, because if everybody's on about eat healthy, there's an obesity crisis, but when you look in the supermarket, everything that's bad for you is cheap, and if you're living on a tight budget, you're not going to go and pick up. You're not going to go and pick up an organic thing that costs you £3, and you've got children to feed, and you can see something there for 50p. You're going to pick up the 50p. So, government should be more involved, I think, in how these costs are controlled. That's they're on about this is unhealthy, this is unhealthy, and they debate and they put groups up for this, they put groups up for that. Save some of that money and actually get to the nitty gritty down with the manufacturers. You don't need 16, 70 or 30 odd thousand little groups. You just need one government body and one industrial body, and just get together and sort it. Take away all that wasted cost of all these salaries and all these buildings and all this stuff, and just have the two bodies to sort it.
I think, Reece, you've got a new candidate for the town council here.
It does sound like it.
I've gone right off, I'm sorry.
No, you haven't gone right off. It's spot on.
It's a very good point.
I do. We'll have this little group will debate this, and this little group will debate that. No, stop all that debating and just get to the nitty gritty and even that difference out, and then our society will become healthier, happier, and more productive.
Now,
it's not going to happen overnight, but
as the agent provocateur of this discussion, I'm going to counteract what I believe myself we should do more of, which is organic, because I do have a problem with pesticides and herbicides. But there is a problem that, as it stands at the moment, we would struggle to feed the world organically. It would be very difficult. There's plenty of food, but it isn't produced in large quantities organically.
No.
So there are big dilemmas about how to solve that. And I wonder whether you think in any way, if you believe in God, that God has thoughts on this. It is a tricky one.
Because he's given us free will, hasn't he? So,
I mean,
that's very true.
He has given us free will. He has, and if we go against it, then we're going against him, perhaps sometimes. I mean, I think there's an argument in Scripture, you see, that says we should think about food being safe for people and nutritious for people, which was your comment, Peter, about nutrients, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And palatable for people. There is actually stuff to suggest that the ethics in the Bible, you could take the safe thing. Well, there was a controversy years ago, I don't know if it still might be true, where Nestle and baby milk in foreign countries was a big problem, where they were not breastfeeding and they were given the milk because their water was contaminated, etc., and there were issues with promoting it. And an ethics around safety. But I mean, we've probably got quite a lot of issues around safety. People talk about chlorinated chicken coming in from the States, or, the rearing of cattle and so on, or chickens in certain ways. Then you've got a nutrition thing around what you talked about, Peter, UPFs, ultra-processed foods and, all the rest of it. But then you've also got palatable. Is it palatable? There's actually, I've got scriptural references down here, and I won't look them up now, but in Exodus and 2 Kings, which are definitely about the palatability of food. And I think God cares about that. So I think there's quite big dilemmas, but I don't think people face them. And I think actually it's quite a godly thing to try and face them. And I want to challenge on this one as much as I challenge myself. I mean, I have changed my own diet over the years. And I think it's just quite a good one. I mean, I kind of want to throw it in, and I'm not saying this is wrong, Peter. I just think it's a good comment when you say, I love eating burgers.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that thing about, well, it's certainly palatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a struggle for Reece, because he would say, well, I'm not sure if you want to eat that because it's being reared in a way that I don't like, or etc., etc. But
although you can get veggie burgers.
You can get veggie burgers. Yeah. Do you think there should be more comment to try and encourage people? Given Anne's saying people can't afford it, so we might need to do something about the affordability. But if you could do something about the affordability, do you
I
think
think the
people
point
would
I was
change?
making, you said the way we all look at food. Luckily here, we're all very blessed that we can afford to buy the food we want.
Yeah,
But there are so many that can't. So the way we look at food
yeah, it might be
and the way
different.
is totally
Yeah.
different. So
'Cause we're blessed.
yeah, we are blessed. We are. The Lord has blessed us.
So should we give thanks for our food? And do we?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, we do.
It's an interesting one because we could take it for granted, couldn't we?
Yeah, easily.
I mean, I don't always remember. I'll just be honest. I don't always. I might sit down and be preoccupied and be eating something, but at the same time, it's easy for us. We can go and buy. I can go and buy it from the shops because I've got the money to buy it. But
I hope you
you're
gave
looking
thanks
like
for
you
your
want to
cream
say
eggs.
something here, Peter.
What's this about cream
I
eggs?
said, I hope you gave thanks for your
Oh,
cream
yeah.
eggs.
I'll be honest, I'm not that much into giving thanks, but I always thank my mum or whoever made the meal.
Yeah.
And always thank them for going shopping. I'm good at thanking. That's sort of
That's excellent.
That's my remit.
But I think there's something about God providing that we got to be careful not to assume that it's always us that copes with it on our own and provides it, because people grow it for us. People, there's a lot of effort goes into it for a start off, and it's not obvious that everybody in the world can get it, can they? I mean,
Well, yeah, we touched on that earlier, didn't we? On the difference in
yeah,
the
absolutely.
global south.
Yeah, absolutely. Global South is
Yeah,
good.
who haven't had the opportunity to mechanise in the same way that we have in this part of the world, so they don't have levels of production
No,
of
they
food.
don't.
There
But
are
at the
so
same
many
time,
environmental
I think
issues.
there's also something about, I mean, the biblical narratives. I mean, we don't realise the effects sometimes, or we can become immune to the pictures we do see on the media about famines and crop failures and floods that affect crops, and then heat that affects crops, and forests burning down and all the rest of it. And yet, in the biblical narrative, there's classic examples of where there was people stepping in on behalf of God. Joseph handling the Middle East famine in the Old Testament story, for example, is a classic one. Whenever they were wandering around in the wilderness, there was manna from heaven and game birds dropping in, and in a sense there was a provision in the story. There's the 4,000 and the 5,000 we've already mentioned. There's just something about the supply of food, which must be difficult if you're struggling to get food in certain parts of the world, but we're not struggling. So there's something about the acknowledgement of that, isn't there, really?
I think we have the burden, I guess, of knowing that we can eat whenever we want to, and knowing that other people can't, and it's really on us to
Do something
try
about
to
it.
do what we can to change it.
I've got a question about, let's say we didn't waste any food. Does that help the cause of other people, or does?
And that's an interesting point.
I think it's
'Cause
good.
in the immediate sense. Well, no, it doesn't, because if you can't get the food that would have been wasted to someone who needs it.
I think I don't like to see it when a country creates a produce, but they can't afford to eat it themselves and they sell it to someone else. Or because some countries have to buy everything and you can take it away from other people. Like apparently, where most of the cocoa beans and chocolate is made is in a couple of countries in Western Africa.
Yep.
And they're exploited. Meanwhile, there's people like me who don't think about the exploitation of Cadbury cream eggs.
You do, because you're mentioning it now.
Yeah, I mention it because but I haven't thought about it, while I'm eating it, that sort of thing. And my thing is, shall I eat a white one, a caramel one, or a standard one? And they're all good. And that's
The
sort
white
of,
one is lovely.
that's my cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
think this is a pub topic for sure.
You've touched on a very interesting point, though, in how we produce food.
Go on.
And how that plays into the the global system of production. Obviously, we couldn't grow cocoa beans to create chocolate. It has to be done in places like Africa, where, you know, as we've said, parts of that continent are struggling to produce healthy food that's actually, you know, nutritious for people. But they're expected to produce chocolate for the West.
They are, and they're probably in debt as well. They've probably a lot of the countries are in debt to the Western countries, and any money they make goes to pay off a debt rather than to bless their own population.
Right. Yeah.
What about? I mean, maybe it touches on what you said, Anne. I mean, we've got a growing obesity problem, especially with children, and yet we waste 30% of our food, and then we've got food banks coming out of our ears at the moment in the UK. And I know from my own experience of being in Lancashire in a very poor area that, you know, I'd go to people's houses where they had a tin of baked beans in the cupboard and nothing else. And so we're in a situation where you were saying, well, if we don't waste, Peter,
Yeah.
I actually think possibly we're even in a country ourselves now where there's an excess of stuff, but the distribution of it is in such a way that we can't support everybody, and yet we can really, if you see what I mean. The system that you were talking about needs structural discussion about it, but there is something unethical and unequal and unfair about that, really. You know, and
Yeah,
so
I think that's right. The issue is the inequitable production and distribution of food. That's the issue.
Yeah.
This morning I just caught the news as I was like flitting doing things. Is it right that the government are going to bring in a law that children can't have sugar in schools, or did I hear that
I think
incorrectly?
there's a change in the school meal provision. I haven't read the details.
It's not government led though, is it?
The school meal one, I think, isn't it?
I haven't
It was
looked
on the
into
news.
this myself.
I didn't hear the whole
I
thing.
don't know
I should have
about
brought it up
sugar.
really because
I'm
I
not
didn't.
sure about the sugar thing.
I'm talking perhaps not from knowledgeable because I didn't hear it completely. But I went away thinking, surely we haven't got to make that a legal thing, that you don't give children sugar. Surely not. They're saying they can't have fizzy drink. Young children, surely they shouldn't get that in school anyway. It's up to the parents what they give their children. Surely that doesn't have to be. I don't know. I just think the world's gone nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about that, but it's also potentially maybe about just parents needing some guidance about.
No, but if they
things.
go to school and it's all healthy, which it should be, then it's up to the parents
whether they
what
get
they
stuff.
do to they're their children. They give their children what they want or what they can afford.
Yeah.
But when they go to an institution, then or another word of it, they should be given the correct food. I thought I don't understand. I was just a bit confused. You know, I'm going back in the dark ages when I went to school. We weren't given chips. We were given water and milk, and we were given meat and vegetables.
Yeah, in the old days, Anne.
Yeah, but we were. You know, we weren't given chips and things. So then, because there were poor people around in our day as well, but when they had their school dinner, they had a nutritious meal.
And then maybe we're moving back towards that. I mean, certainly there was something today about they were going to try and change the diet from certain things to others in schools. And I think there is something about. I mean, not just the government should. I think us, for me, as a believing Christian, I think we should speak out to enable people to be better than they are and to encourage a more equitable and healthy society, really. So I think there is something in that. I mean, and also, I mean, there's another aspect of this, which is a lot of food we now have is not seasonal, and it comes in from all over
That's
the
what
world.
I was going to bring up.
And there's I think we're almost being. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that it's, to use big words, sort of theodicy thing, but I don't think necessarily we can assume God might be up to something here. I don't think He's going to work necessarily through dramatic negative situations. But you know, if this Middle East thing carries on, we are going to have a problem with fuel that brings some of the products in by either jets or even other freight. So what we get might change. We certainly don't eat seasonally anymore.
No.
You know,
Definitely don't.
should we do anything? Or should we just let it run? I mean,
The only thing is, I know I do. I'm guilty. I'm sorry. I'm a hypocrite. Like I do buy blueberries and things that are out of season. But if we all stop doing that, would we not make somebody else poor that's actually producing that for us
yeah.
to bring to us? Isn't
It's not simple, is it?
No, it's not
It isn't
simple.
simple.
There's not a simple answer because that's like a.
It isn't
It's
simple.
no, you know, those people are getting paid to do that to produce it for us. So then, if we suddenly think, right, the whole world eats seasonally, are they going to be then poor through it?
And there are ways in which you can transport things in more. You know, you can do it in some ways. It uses less energy if you're talking about a carbon footprint that you were earlier on. Peter.
Yeah.
You know, there are ways and means of improving it. Doesn't make it perfect, but there are ways of improving it. Anything else you want to share on this that's come to mind? I'm conscious of the time on this.
I've got a quick one.
Go on,
Do you
Peter.
think it would be better if there was no food bank? If everyone had enough food
Oh,
and we didn't need a food bank?
of course it would be.
Do you think you should provide them though? Should we stop? Because there'd be a better way to do it.
Well, no, because they need the food.
Yeah, but I have asked myself this in the past. Go on, Reece, you're going to say something.
Yeah, there is a better way to do it, you know, and that's to make sure that everybody has enough to live on, can afford food, healthy food.
But in the meantime,
yeah,
people
we
are starving.
shouldn't need food banks, but obviously, yeah, they have been set up to fill that gap for people who can.
Yeah.
I mean, I had struggles in the past, Peter, I must say, that although we ran one from very early days of when they came in, 2009, I think we started one, but we got to the point where we wondered whether all we were doing was filling a gap that should be done in a different way.
Right. Yeah.
And whether we were achieving anything by, because they were just expanding and still are really, and you know, you get to a point when you think, surely we can do this better than we are. I'm not saying there's a simple solution. I just think from a believing point of view, God wants to provide for everybody, and how we provide is, in a sense, we've been given some responsibility for that, because Genesis says you're stewards of this creation. You should be, on my behalf, I've given it to you, work out how to do it better. And there's something in that I think is quite important. If I was floating one other thing, it would be, Jesus wasn't a vegetarian, why should we be? Reece, go on, I thought I'd throw one in at the end.
My first question is, do we know for sure that he wasn't a vegetarian?
Possibly not. I don't know actually that we do have a comment that says he was eating meat, although I think we can be probably pretty clear he was eating fish. Because, you know, after the resurrection, they had breakfast on the beach which consisted of fish. So we may be then,
so he may have been a pescatarian.
But then you've got a comment there about, but if that's the case, what's the difference between getting provision that's in some sense a protein from an animal, from a sea, or from land? And you know, you could get into that. That's probably another discussion for another time.
Yeah.